Right now on Morning News Now, fireworks in Wisconsin. 8 of the top Republican contenders for president battled it out on the debate stage in prime time last night. We've got full analysis and all of the major takeaways in just a moment. Also this morning, defiance. While former President Trump was absent from the debate stage last night, he was still after the spotlight, sitting down with former Fox News host Tucker Carlson and blasting his 4 indictments. More on that as Trump prepares to turn himself in to Georgia authorities later today. Plus, fate unclear. The Russian mercenary chief and the head of the Wagner group who led that aborted mutiny attempt earlier this summer is presumed dead this morning. Russian state media is reporting he was listed as a passenger on a jet that crashed north of Moscow. The Kremlin silent on the incident so far. We'll bring you the latest on this twist and what it could mean for the ongoing war in Ukraine. And cracking a joke. It's the latest TikTok trend that some parents insist is harmless fun, but doctors say the hashtag egg prank could have some unintended consequences. Hard to watch those for me.
There is a prank for everything now online. My goodness. Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Stephen Romo in for Savannah Sellers today. We have a lot to get to, but we do begin this morning with the race for the White House and the first Republican primary debate last night.
8 candidates, 8 of them, the ones who met the threshold set by the Republican National Committee, they squared off in Milwaukee. The frontrunner in the GOP field, former President Trump, decided not to take part, but he still loomed large over the debate as the candidates sparred against each other. They also had to address what was labeled the elephant not in the room. Here's a look at some of the highlights from last night.
Tonight, the race for the White House takes flight. Welcome to the first debate of the 2024 presidential campaign, live at Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee. If former President Trump is convicted in a court of law, would you still support him as your party's choice? Please raise your hand if you would.
Whether or not you believe that the criminal charges are right or wrong, the conduct is beneath the office of President of the United States.
Here's the thing. This election is not about January 6th of 2021. It's about January 20th of 2025, when the next president is going to take office.
We have to look at the fact that 3/4 of Americans don't want a rematch between Trump and Biden.
I had hoped that the issues surrounding the 2020 election and the controversies around January 6th had not come to this, had not come to criminal proceedings.
And when Hunter Biden fills out a fake application, a false application for a gun permit, and then is facing a 10-year mandatory minimum, which was mandated by legislation sponsored by his father, and then you have a Justice Department that walks away from those charges, we're telling people that the law doesn't apply to everybody.
Can't we all agree that we should ban late-term abortions? Can't we all agree that we should encourage adoptions? Can't we all agree that doctors and nurses who don't believe in abortion shouldn't have to perform them?
We're joined now by NBC's Vitale from Milwaukee and senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen. Good morning to both of you. So, Allie, let's start with you. As we mentioned a moment ago, former President Trump was not there. Instead, he took part in that pre-recorded interview with former Fox News host Tucker Carlson. It was about an hour into the debate when the candidates were finally asked about Trump and all of those indictments. So what were some of the key takeaways from the candidates when it comes to the frontrunner and his legal issues?
Yeah, Joe, as if that weren't the question that everyone was waiting for, from viewers to the candidates themselves. But it was fascinating to watch Trump treated more as an issue to be dealt with, as opposed to an individual who's vying for this office, actively leading the pack. In my conversations in the spin room after, it was clear to everyone that he wasn't there, and many of them felt that this moment where you watched his opponents raise their hands and say that they would still support him even after indicted only further proved the former president's point that he is still the leader of this party. Nevertheless, some of those moments for you, watch.
The American people deserve to know that the president asked me in his request that I reject or return votes unilaterally, power that no vice president in American history had ever exercised or taken. He asked me to put him over the Constitution. And I chose the Constitution.
So we have to have respect for our justice system and the rule of law, and it starts at the top with the President of the United States.
And look, none of those comments were exactly surprising. And so when you look at this debate stage and wonder, did it change anything? Did any of the candidates wait for the largest audience that they would have up until this point to actually go at the former president for his multiple legal troubles? The answer is no.
So, John, before Trump even became a focal point, the first part of the debate was pretty focused on a number of other issues, non-Trump issues. What stood out to you in that?
It's a great question, Joe, and, always so hard to add and follow Ali Vitale with a really good insight there. I think what stood out to me at the beginning of the debate, the desire of these guys to go after each other. I say guys in part because Nikki Haley, the former governor of South Carolina, didn't engage in quite the level of vitriol that some of the other folks did. But what you saw early on this stage was really a fight for who would emerge into second place. Definitely, absolutely, a lot of rockets being fired at Vivek Ramaswamy, who has been surging in polls recently. You saw Christie and Pence in particular attack him on his inexperienced 38-year-old businessman with no government experience before. And then, again, to your point, it took a while for them to get to Trump. A lot of exchanges over everything from abortion to foreign policy.
So, Ali, for some of the candidates like Ramaswamy, this was really their first introduction to a national audience. Yeah. What did we see from those who were really trying to make a name for themselves, to try and stand out from the pack?
And what an introduction it was, because in many ways, he was the Trump stand-in there on the stage. A lot of the candidates more willing to mix it up with him, someone who's surging in the polls and who has no real political background, as opposed to someone like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who his campaign had really been previewing. Allies had said they knew he had a target on his back because of the fact that he has really been the second-place guy for the duration of this primary. What's clear is that most people on the stage preferred to ignore him and instead look at Ramaswamy for their moment or their standout opportunity. One of those was Christie. Watch how that happened.
I'm the only person on the stage who isn't bought and paid for, so I can say this. The climate change agenda is a hoax. The climate change agenda is a hoax.
I've had enough already tonight of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here.
Come over and give me a hug. Give me a hug just like you did to Obama.
The same type of amateur.
And you'll help elect me just like you did to Obama, too. Give me that
the same type of amateur.
There's that classic Christie flair that I think many of us expected to see, especially after watching him on the debate stage in 2016. But certainly Christie wasn't the only one who earned a moment at Ramaswamy's expense. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley really flexing her conservative credentials as well as her foreign policy creds, showing that she's someone who has not just been an executive of a state, but also someone who knows what it is to be a leader on the foreign policy and world stage. She, of course, was a UN ambassador in the Trump administration, and at one point really went at Ramaswamy as well as her other colleagues, stealing the moment and really elevating her stature on that stage as well.
So, John, bottom line, Trump still maintains a large lead in the polls over his rivals. That's one of the reasons he gave for not appearing at last night's debate, why we may not see him in future ones. But with this first debate behind us now, what can we expect from the candidates before they do this again next month in California? Does anyone have to change their strategy here?
I think what was most fast last night was the lack of fire at Ron DeSantis, polling number 2. This is a real problem at some level for his campaign, that nobody bothered to fight with him. That he's been swooning some, and the focus was really on Ramaswamy in terms of the other candidates trying to get to their spot. So I think basically we're going to see over the course of the next several weeks, as we wait for debate number 2, is this Donnybrook, this all-out brawl for who can be the number 2 candidate. And again, always worth mentioning that Donald Trump is dominant in the polls right now. That seems unlikely to change soon.
All right, Ali Vitale, John Allen, thank you both for kicking us off this hour.
While he didn't take part in last night's debate, former President Trump will likely be back in the spotlight today. He's expected to turn himself in at an Atlanta jail later today in connection with the indictment filed against him in Fulton County last week. He and 18 other co-defendants, including Rudy Giuliani, who surrendered yesterday, are accused of trying to illegally overturn the 2020 election. NBC News correspondent Blaine Alexander is in Atlanta with the latest.
Well, guys, good morning from the Fulton County Jail. This is the location, right here, the area behind me, where former President Donald Trump will later this evening come and surrender to officials here at the jail. He will be booked, he will be processed, and he will be released on $200,000 bail. Now, of course, the terms of his bond consent agreement have already been ironed out. That happened earlier this week. We know that in addition to the bond being set, a judge, he's been ordered to not make any sort of threats, indirect or otherwise, toward witnesses, co-defendants, or the community, and that includes on his social media channels. Those were part of the terms of his consent bond agreement. Now, according to a source familiar with the former president's plans, he will travel to Atlanta this afternoon to be booked in later this evening. Now, the big question, of course, is what will that process look like on the inside? Will he receive a mugshot? How long will he actually be inside of the building? We do know that this area is going to be locked down for a good part of the day. Nobody allowed in or out in anticipation of the former president. Back to you.
We'll be watching. Blaine, thank you.
For some perspective on all of this, let's bring in our NBC News legal analyst, Danny Cevallos. Danny, good to have you with us. So this is not the first time former President Trump has surrendered following an indictment. We've seen him turn himself in 3 times before. This will be number 4. How could today's surrender be different?
It's different because it seems like the Georgia court is requiring him to do a lot more. In a sense, it could be argued that when he submitted to federal jurisdiction, when he turned himself in, he got somewhat special treatment. He didn't get a mugshot. There were some other things that obviously you have to treat a former president differently because of security reasons. He can't waltz in the front door and turn himself in the way another defendant might in New York who's just turning himself in for a desk appearance ticket. So there are obviously going to be procedural differences, security reasons why every time President Trump surrenders himself, it will be different. In this case, it's probably likely, since we've been seeing everybody else getting their mugshots taken, that in all likelihood, he will be processed like any other defendant.
And that would be the first time we would see a mugshot with the former president. So we know a condition of his release is not threatening witnesses or obstructing the administration of justice. How is that enforced? And realistically, what could happen if he violates that or any of the other conditions?
Hypothetically, you could take some of that language that you just mentioned, and it could be a lot of things. It could be Donald Trump on a debate stage or in an interview with Tucker saying something nasty about Mike Pence. And that's the most obvious one because Mike Pence may actually be a witness in one or more of these cases. It's a possibility. Nobody knows for sure yet, but given the broad language in his pretrial release language, and not just in Georgia, but elsewhere, given that broad language, an ambitious prosecutor could arguably say during a debate or during some kind of interview that Trump has violated, go before the judge and seek incremental punishment. And that's the way the court will usually handle it. They'll start with fines and move their way up. But make no mistake about it, the end of the road could be incarceration for the violation of a pretrial release order. At least that's what happens to regular defendants that you've never heard of.
Danny, let's shift to the federal case in Florida. That's the one where former President Trump is charged with possessing classified documents and obstructing justice. One of the witnesses in the case changed attorneys and changed his testimony. Help us understand this and how big of a development this is.
You had 2 different cases here. You have the D.C. grand jury, which was investigating, and then you have the Florida grand jury. And arguable, it appears from filing that one of the witnesses, and I believe it's Trump employee number 4 in the Florida documents case, may have given inconsistent testimony, and that testimony may be changing now that he got rid of his former lawyer, which may have been funded through a Trump PAC or by Trump supporters, and now may be getting a federal public defender, which, by the way, may be an upgrade. Federal public defenders are fantastic. They may lack the resources of a super PAC funded defense, but they're excellent attorneys. And the court there is at least interested in making sure that this witness is advised that one of the co-defendants, Nauta, is advised of a potential conflict of interest with his attorney.
All right, Danny Cevallos, thank you so much.
We're following some breaking news out of Orange County, California. At least 4 people are dead this morning after a mass shooting at a popular biker bar. It happened just after 7 p.m. last night at Cook's Corner Bar. Police say the suspect was killed in a shootout involving a handful of Orange County deputies. According to multiple sources familiar with this, the shooter was an ex-law enforcement officer who may have been targeting his own wife. 6 other people were also hurt. 2 of them are in critical condition this morning. Now to Russia, where authorities are opening a criminal investigation into yesterday's plane crash that reportedly killed all 10 people on board. Russian aviation officials say the leader of the mercenary Wagner group, Yevgeny Prigozhin, and his right-hand man were on board. Prigozhin was behind the aborted Moscow mutiny attempt back in June. The private jet was going from Moscow to St. Petersburg when it crashed in the Tver region of western Russia. This eyewitness video we have shows the moment the plane begins to fall out of the sky before crashing in an area about 60 miles north of Moscow. NBC News foreign correspondent Megan Fitzgerald joins us now with more on this. Megan, walk us through, if you will, what authorities in Russia are saying about this. And if you would, talk to us about the significance of Prigozhin reportedly being among those killed.
Well, what we know is that aircraft took off from Moscow to St. Petersburg, as you mentioned, at around 6 p.m. local time. Not long after takeoff, it disappeared from radar. Not long after that is when we see standard passers-by cell phone video capturing the moments that aircraft falls from the sky, crashing into an open field, erupting in flames, where Russian authorities say all 10 passengers on board were killed. They have recovered the bodies, they say. They also say that the leader of the Wagner mercenary group, Yevgeny Prigozhin, was listed being on board. The timing of this certainly suspicious. It comes 2 months to the day when we saw Prigozhin launching that mutiny against the Kremlin, where he and his troops were making their way to Moscow before they decided to abandon mission. Now we know that Putin pardoned him, but that also set off a lot of speculation that Putin was going to retaliate. It was just a matter of time for him to even the score. Stephen?
And that video is shocking. The plane really does just fall right out of the sky. So what's the reaction been to this crash from the Wagner Group and from Russia as a whole?
Well, you know, what's really significant is that we saw President Putin giving a speech yesterday. He spoke today at the BRICS summit, and there was no mention of Prigozhin, no mention of that plane crash. And then also, at this moment, there is no clear leader of the Wagner mercenary group at this point. But what we do know is that according to the social media platform Telegram, there are accounts that are associated with the Wagner group where there are comments about the fact that he is dead. Prigozhin is, in fact, dead. They're calling him a martyr. They're calling him a hero. And they do believe that this was done at the hands of President Putin, that he ordered this plane to be crashed in some way, shape, or form. But they do blame him. Also, St. Petersburg is where Prigozhin is from. That's also the headquarters of the Wagner Group. And we know that people are laying flowers outside. Stephen?
A lot of suspicion about this, Megan, including seemingly some from President Biden. Reporters asked him about this crash yesterday. What did he have to say?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. President Biden also seemingly suspicious about what happened here. I want you to listen to what he said yesterday to reporters not long after this news broke.
I don't know for a fact what happened, but I'm not surprised.
Do you believe Putin is behind this, sir?
There's not much that happens in Russia not behind it. I don't know enough to know the answer. I've been working out for the last hour.
So certainly a lot of speculation here as to what happened, who was behind it, if anyone. But the Russian authorities say that this is an ongoing and active investigation, Stephen.
We'll see if we get those answers. Megan, thank you.
Let's get more on this with NBC News national security analyst Clint Wattso. Clint, still many unknowns to this story, including who or what may have been behind the crash. What is your initial reaction to this? I mean, could this be a move by Russia's President Putin to try and reassert his authority?
Well, we don't know. It is just striking. It's only been 2 months since that mutiny that was led by Prigozhin. We saw him down in the area known as Rostov-on-Don which is the military headquarters really for the invasion of Ukraine. So it isn't shocking or surprising to anyone that's been watching that Prigozhin may be dead. There's just a few notes, though, that I think we should keep in mind. First, Prigozhin was a man known to have body doubles, and he was also a guy known to have lots of identities, and that came out right after the mutiny. So we should always be cautious when watching this because there were two planes that took off yesterday, one that crashed. Now, this is the manifest that had Prigozhin on it. He's not the only one on that plane. There's another key person named Dmitry Yukin that was on that. He was the original founder of the Wagner Group and then merged it with Prigozhin. That's both of the senior leaders of the Wagner Group at a time when everyone's kind of trying to figure out what will happen to the Wagner Group, which has been really holed up in Belarus during this time.
Yeah, Clint,
so either way.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, either way, it's just a curious circumstance that he suddenly dies. And he was in Africa earlier this week. He dies now in Russia. It just is an awfully suspicious circumstance. I'm sure we'll get more information as it goes, but we may never know exactly how that plane came down.
I do want to ask you more about just the implications of this if Prigozhin is confirmed dead. What is the impact on the Wagner Group, do you think? And what's also the impact and the implications for Moscow?
Yeah, for the Wagner Group, what's interesting is the main leaders have been taken out, and the one general who was tied up in the mutiny was also fired yesterday inside Russia. So that's three different individuals that would be in some leadership or respected position of authority that all are removed, which means the Wagner Group is leaderless essentially at this point. That would beg the question, would it be somebody rise up from the ranks to take over the Wagner Group, or would there be somebody move in to buy essentially the Wagner Group? Remember, these are mercenaries. They're not just a regular military outfit. And then what would they do from there? I think the place to watch is Africa. Wagner Group does lots of the pseudo-military operations there. Securing extraction industries is really the leading edge for a lot of Russian influence. Who would take that over or what would take that over? There's just a lot of questions and how this will ripple out. I think inside Russia, you got to look to see on Telegram with those people that can actually speak. What do they say about Prigozhin and how do they react to it? Because he was a man kind of seen as a populist there. Really very similar but opposite of Navalny, populist versus the real elite of Putin.
You know, Clint, we just heard President Biden say he's not surprised by what happened. How do you think the U.S. is going to react to this?
I think it will be a watch and see moment. I mean, if anything, it's a wound inflicted on Russia to itself if they are the ones responsible for shooting down or blowing up this aircraft. It will create a rift in the ranks. Remember, those that are fighting in Ukraine on the Russian side, those are prisoners. Those are conscripts. Those are people that are forced into the military. That's where to watch is what their reaction is.
All right. Clint Wattso, appreciate your analysis. Thanks for joining us this morning.
All right, back here at home, another scorching hot day for the Midwest. Let's get a check of your morning News Now weather.
Meteorologist Angie Lastman is here. Angie, I know my family in Minnesota is not terribly happy right now.
And my family in Michigan was not thrilled either, Joe. And we continue to see those places continuing to be impacted by this really, uncomfortable and kind of dangerous heat at times. From parts of the Great Lakes all the way down to the Gulf Coast, we're once again dealing with these heat alerts. So 98 million people are included in this. And you've heard the words before, the heat dome continues today. We're going to see another couple of days before we get a little bit of relief. So there is some relief in sight for all those places that are looking for it. Today is not the day, though. Places like Chicago head to 99 degrees. But look at this feels like temperature. 116 degrees. St. Louis, you're going to feel like 115, 107 in Omaha. The farther south you go, there's not much change. It's temperatures, actual temperatures into the triple digits, and then feels like temperatures even warmer than that. As we look ahead to tomorrow, notice what happens. The cold front starts inching its way a little farther south. It's going to bring some relief, but places like St. Louis, Wichita, Memphis, not going to feel that just yet. We'll slowly but surely start to see some better conditions, but unfortunately for folks in the south, you're not getting relief. We're continuing to see these really uncomfortable, dangerous conditions lasting well into early next week. But here's the spots where we will see a dip in degrees. Places like Chicago, Saturday and Sunday, gorgeous temperatures, upper 70s. You get back to the 80s on Monday. Can't complain about that. Detroit heads to the upper 70s. Minneapolis flirts with the low low 80s here for the next couple of days, and Des Moines will end up into those mid 80s. So you see some cooler air starting to settle in. With that, though, comes the potential for some strong storms and really some unsettled weather across a couple of spots in the country. We've got that cold front that's going to, of course, change those temperatures for us, but it's also going to bring us some showers and some thunderstorms as we get through the afternoon hours today in parts of the Great Lakes and in the Ohio Valley. That's where we'll see the potential for some strong storms. It looks like the main threat will likely be winds, but either way, keep an eye out for that. As we look ahead to tomorrow, watch what happens for your Friday. That system inches its way a little farther to the east and takes with it some showers, some thunderstorms. We will have that strong storm threat for folks in the mid-Atlantic. If you're traveling tomorrow, heads up, you might have a couple of delays in this area. You'll just have to check in on that. But here's the spot today that you want to watch for. Detroit, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, all could see some of those stronger storms. Again, the main threat is winds, but we can't rule out a couple of tornadoes, so good to have a way to get those alerts. And then this is the area we'll be watching for tomorrow. Not a great chance of some really strong storms, but still could impact you if you're traveling on a Friday, guys.
All right, wow. Angie, thank you so much.
Of course.
Coming up, new year, new environment, how budget cuts are closing schools and shuffling thousands of students across the country.
Yeah, but first, as Republican hopefuls make their case for the White House, the Biden administration is touting its economic achievements. But is that message actually getting through? That story coming up next.
Welcome back. President Biden continues to tout his economic achievements across the country as he gears up for his reelection bid next year. The White House calls it Bidenomics, but in places like Reno, Nevada, some people there say they have yet to see the results. NBC News Chief White House correspondent Peter Alexander takes us there.
It's midday at Reno's Need to Speed. Among those taking to the track, retiree and registered independent Bob Force.
You were fast out there. Well, I've done it a few times.
Force worked for the city for 20 years and still keeps a close eye on what Washington is doing.
Are you satisfied with how the president's done his job?
I think the president has worked as hard as he can to overcome a lot of obstacles. And I think some of his policies have been very good for the country.
But Force, who lives off his pension, is concerned about the rising price of gas.
Gas prices are high around here. I mean, we're in the 480s, which is hard when you on a fixed income.
Nationwide, a recent poll finds just 36% of Americans approve of President Biden's handling of the economy. The president now pitching what he touts as economic wins, branding them as Bidenomics.
Folks, that's Bidenomics.
But here in Nevada's Washoe County, the swing county in one of the country's most evenly divided states, many voters we met are not seeing any improvement. We caught up with Republicans Kara and Ben Harris, raising 5 kids, rushing to get them off to school.
Bidenomics, they call it. Are you experiencing those gains?
I would say no. I think there's been a lot of hits, with interest rates, and it definitely affects especially larger families.
And soaring interest rates, the highest they've been in more than 20 years, have slammed the door shut on any talk of them moving into a bigger home.
Houses have ticked up. The median home value in Reno has been going up rapidly over the last several years, and now you combine interest rates with that.
Democrat Nicole Cooley, who opened this food truck just 18 months ago, also has her frustrations about Bidenomics.
You're not feeling that change.
I'm not feeling it. I'm not seeing it. I don't want to be negative, but those are just my facts.
Her biggest challenge, the rising cost of ingredients, like her signature tri-tip.
It costs me close to $7 a pound now.
Yeah, and it was?
And it was about $3.50 when I started.
It's doubled.
It's doubled, yes. It's tough. It's really tough.
Biden advisors argue there may be a lag before Americans feel the progress the president cites, highlighting $2.5 billion invested in infrastructure in Nevada alone. But here in the Sierra Nevada mountains, heading into a re-election year, the president's certainly facing an uphill climb. Back to you.
All right, Peter, thank you.
New this morning, a Russian court is extending the arrest of Evan Gershkovich, the Wall Street Journal reporter detained on espionage charges.
NBC News correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us with that and other international headlines. Raf, good morning.
Joe, Stephen, good morning. Yeah, that's right. Gershkovich appeared in a Moscow courtroom this morning, and according to a Russian state news agency, his pretrial detention has now been extended by 3 months to November 30th. He was arrested while on a reporting trip back in late March, and Gershkovich is the first American reporter to face espionage charges in Russia since 1986. The Wall Street Journal and the U.S. government have both spoken out against his continued detention. In North Korea, a second attempt to launch a spy satellite has failed. The rocket flew over parts of Japan, prompting that country to issue a brief alert ordering some residents to evacuate. North Korean state media says the attempt failed due to an error in the emergency blasting system during the third stage flight. Japanese officials say the rocket broke into pieces before falling into the sea. And finally, an 18-year-old Indian chess prodigy has become the youngest ever player to reach the game's World Cup final. The teen from the town of Chennai is no stranger to making history, becoming the youngest international chess master ever. Guys, at just 10 years old, he is facing world number one Magnus Carlsen in the final today. And Joe, Stephen, a lot of people in India and around the world are cheering him on.
I bet they are. Very exciting stuff. Raf Sanchez, thanks so much.
Coming up, pregnancy is supposed to be a magical time for any family.
But a new study is shedding light on medical mistreatment for moms. We're diving into that new research and find out who is most affected. That's coming up next.
Back with a new CDC study that's shedding light on the experiences of pregnant women in the doctor's office.
Yeah, some shocking stuff here. According to this report, 1 in 5 women say they were mistreated during pregnancy or delivery care. It comes as more studies show an increase in maternal mortality rates across the U.S., raising the alarm for federal health care officials. Let's bring in Dr. Jessica Shepard for more on this. She's the chief medical officer at Verywell Health and an OBGYN. Dr. Shepard, thanks for being here. So this CDC study outlines some of the major disparities between who exactly is facing this mistreatment, and it breaks down very much on insurance type, but also on race. If you could walk us through some of these findings.
Absolutely. Now, this is looking at the actual care. This was a survey that was done in April at about 2,400 women looking at their overall care and satisfaction. Now, just like you said, 1 in 5 noted that they had some experiences of mistreatment. Now, when they did break that down by race and ethnicity and also insurance type, you did find that most who had some of those mistreatment were Black and Hispanic, multiracial, and then those who had no insurance or public insurance. So clearly there, we're seeing some disparities. And I think that these types of surveys are interesting. It does require further looking into the depths of this, but these are the starting points that need to be taken, especially when we have such a high maternal mortality rate.
Let's talk about the big picture here. I mean, what does this study and really the many other studies before it that seem to echo it, what do they tell us about the state of maternal welfare in the U.S. right now?
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you said previous studies. There was actually a study that was done as early as 1958 in Ladies' Home Journal looking at the experience of women as they deliver. And kind of some of the same things came up. So clearly there's something that we need to address when we look at the entire picture of the experience that happens when a woman enters into the hospital and what happens with the conversations, with some of the requests that go unheard or demands, or even the interactions that go on with the healthcare providers. So what this is showing, from the CDC is that they're really looking at a healthcare community and what we need to do in totality to make sure that we're having equitable deliveries and that we're not having this disparity that was clearly shown in the statistics, and making sure from a healthcare system and from the hospital and providers, we are all taking the individual steps to make sure that experience is pleasant, but also that we're ensuring no matter how you come into the hospital, whether it's a different ethnicity, that we need to make sure that we support moms.
Well, the Ladies' Home Journal really ahead of the curve on this one, Doctor. Well, is there anything on an individual level that a pregnant person can do to maybe advocate for themselves while they're at the doctor's office or in those stressful delivery rooms? And who can they turn to if not the doctor?
Absolutely. I think that there are ways that we can have more advocates at the actual delivery. Now, being an OBGYN, I know that some of these times are very stressful, and sometimes there are moments where we need to make sure that we're having imminent delivery of communication, and that can be sometimes tense. However, the overall experience, what they have seen in studies, is that if you have things such as interaction with midwives and doulas and advocates, that can sometimes create more of an environment where the communication is focused on what is the outcome and the goal that we're looking for, and how can we make sure that all of the different parties in the delivery, being the provider and the patient, and also the healthcare staff that's involved, that it is something that is continuous, it's something that is joyful, but also getting what we need at the end of the day, which is a healthy delivery.
Absolutely. Healthy mom, healthy baby. Dr. Jessica Shepard, thanks so much for your insights this morning.
Summer is coming to a close and kids are heading back to the classroom, but more and more schools are closing their doors, which means some families are facing an extra tough adjustment. Here's NBC News correspondent Noah Pransky.
This breaks my heart. I moved to Indianapolis, a widow, 3 small children. This school is where I made friends. Not just my children, but myself also.
You probably know a mom just like Deshawn Jorman, hustling to get her kids out the door each morning.
Let's look both ways.
Spending hours shuttling them around town, and a mom who loved her kids' school.
This was community. This is not just a building. It's not just a school.
But falling enrollment at Indianapolis district-run schools down 38% over the past decade, and the falling funding that comes along with that led the district to permanently close 6 buildings this summer, including Francis Parker Montessori. The place where Deshawn and her kids used to play, learn, and gather was getting ripped away. It was a loss to their community, not to mention sleep. Deshawn's 2nd and 3rd graders not only now have to go to new schools, but she said the best option to keep them in high-performing programs was to now put them in different schools.
I do have to get up earlier. It's more gas because I have to be in 2 lines, drop-off lines. And gas is high.
Drop-off lines is that the worst part of the morning?
Yeah, now I'm going to have to fight the drop-off line.
Deshawn's got to do it all some mornings, but she's not alone. Public schools in dozens of states are facing a crisis. The Department of Education estimates there are today nearly 2 million fewer students in U.S. public schools than before the pandemic. One of the biggest reasons, America's falling birth rate at its lowest level ever recorded. And fewer students means fewer funds.
If you're trying to operate too many schools, you've taken resources out of your remaining schools to prop up these half-empty ones. And often that means there are not enough resources for extracurriculars, AP classes, and things like that.
But this perfect storm for shutdowns is also fueled by pandemic migration out of big cities and out of public schools, more public dollars going to private, religious, and charter schools, and the drying up of COVID relief money that helped many districts delay the inevitable until now.
We're expecting a lot more school closures in the next year or two as a result of the federal relief money running out.
Which is why some superintendents, like Alicia Johnson in Indianapolis, say they're trying to get ahead of the budgetary cliff with a multi-year plan to consolidate buildings while simultaneously expanding educational offerings.
Change is difficult, and I am not asking, nor do I expect that this is going to be a process that doesn't create situations that families are going to have to do something different. We're trying to do the hard things that need to be done so that we can get to better things for kids and families.
Deshawn is no fan of the plan laid out by the superintendent, but in a way, both women are fighting for the same thing, a brighter future.
I want them to learn. I want them to be, have a level of confidence about themselves. And being in a good program can give you that.
Our thanks to Noah Pransky for that report.
Well, coming up, a new warning from doctors about another troublesome trend on TikTok.
Why they say the egg prank challenge could have some unintended consequences. That's next. Welcome back. Lawmakers in some states, including North Dakota and Texas, are concerned that pieces of land are being bought by the Chinese government without being reported to the U.S. They say it's the newest security threat facing the nation. NBC News correspondent Ryan Nobles takes a closer look.
In Montana, fears about the security threat from China have been growing ever since that Chinese spy balloon soared across its famous big sky.
The Chinese spy balloon was right above us. That woke a lot of people up.
And it's not just worries about America's vulnerability from the air. Now, one of Montana's senators is pushing to keep the Chinese government from buying land nationwide.
China is not our friend right now, and the Chinese Communist Party wants to do bad things.
Senator John Tester is proposing a ban on entities with ties to China and 3 other foreign adversaries from buying American farmland and wants to beef up monitoring of land transactions to foreign buyers.
Right now, we're not paying any attention to it.
The push to prohibit foreign land purchases from China has exploded across America. 15 states have passed laws regulating the practice. Much of the focus coming after controversial purchases in Texas and North Dakota, where Chinese companies bought land and failed to disclose it to the U.S. government. In Grand Forks, North Dakota, city officials recently blocked construction on land purchased by a Chinese company just 12 miles from Grand Forks Air Force Base. The company has said it's just a corn mill and not an espionage risk. But the Air Force had warned that the project presented a, quote, significant threat to national security. Overall, U.S. intelligence rates the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, as a top security threat.
The CCP represents both the leading and most consequential threat to U.S. national security and leadership globally.
Though an NBC News review finding nationwide the amount of American land being purchased by Chinese entities appears to be small. Since early 2022, less than 1,400 acres sold to businesses tied to China have been reported to the USDA so far. In total, it appears China controls less than 400,000 acres of American land, which is less than 1% of all the land owned by foreign entities. Here in Montana, a state law banning Chinese citizens from buying land passed with bipartisan support. Brad Molnar was the only Republican to vote no.
You create the dragon. There never was a dragon.
He says the law is an overreach and would prevent his wife, a Chinese national, from being able to inherit his land after he dies.
There's no evidence that I'm aware of that the people that own the land are in any way a threat to American security. If they are, arrest them and remove them.
Tester tells us more action is needed to counter the security risk from the Chinese government.
Are you concerned that we don't even know how much land China has potentially purchased already?
I don't think we know how much land they bought. This is prospective. This will stop it happening before it becomes a situation where we go, oh, gee, we wish we'd have done something about that in 2023.
While Tester's amendment did pass with wide bipartisan support, it's part of a larger defense package that still needs to be negotiated between the House and Senate in the months ahead.
All right, Ryan Nobles, thank you so much.
Some financial headlines now. A new defect found on Boeing's best-selling jet.
CNBC's Silvana Henao joins us with that and other money news. Silvana, good morning.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Stephen. Good morning. Yeah, that's right. So Boeing has discovered a new defect on the 737 MAX jet that could threaten deliveries of its best-selling model. The FAA says the latest issue isn't safety-related. Boeing's largest supplier, Spirit Aerosystems, improperly drilled holes in a part that helps maintain cabin pressure. MAX jets that are already in service aren't affected, but it's another headache for Boeing as it ramps up manufacturing while dealing with supply chain issues. Apple, in a surprise move, is now backing a right-to-repair bill currently pending in California. The measure covers both consumer electronics and appliances. In a letter to state lawmakers, Apple says it supports the bill as it offers people the ability to repair their devices safely without risking privacy or data issues. Apple launched a self-service program last year, renting tools to repair iPhones and Macs at home. California's bill is similar to a law that went into effect in Minnesota in May. And more people call out sick today, August 24th, than any other day, even the day after the Super Bowl. A study by Flamingo, which is a firm that helps companies manage absences and medical leave, analyzed data on sick days taken by workers over the past 5 years. It found an average of 0.9% of employees were out on August 24th. That's a higher percentage than any other day of the year. The biggest excuse for calling out? Coming down with a stomach bug, guys. Why August 24th? I don't understand.
I don't get that either. And I also don't believe the stomach bug thing, but I think it's because no one's going to ask any follow-up questions.
It's summer. It's end of summer. I don't know.
Stomach bug, enough said. All right, Silvana, thanks so much.
You got it.
All right, now to a trend you might have seen on TikTok lately. Parents tricking their kids into helping them in the kitchen, only to smash an egg on their children's heads.
Well, some say the latest internet craze is a harmless prank. Doctors are warning the quick laugh could come with some unintended consequences. NBC News youth and internet culture reporter Callan Rosenblatt joins us now to explain some of this pushback. So, Callan, good morning. Let's start with some of the short-term effects these pranks can have. Doctors are worried about some of the physical harm. Common sense might tell you this isn't the brightest thing to do, but how much damage can one egg do?
Yeah, Joe, Steve, good morning. The damage that an egg can do physically in the short term is really just a bruise. It could be even, a little swelling on the forehead. But some of the bigger fears around the egg smash is that young children are going to get egg sort of yolk into their eyes, which could carry salmonella. It could get into their mouths. That could require them to have an ER visit. And if that's the case, then they may have to be, IV. They may need to drink fluids. And as a doctor,
it's much harder for a young person to take fluids than it is for an adult.
Yeah, Callan, these videos, I'm no fan of them. They're kind of hard to watch. So also thinking about the psychological and child development aspects to address here, walk us through what are doctors saying could happen mentally for a child whose parents do this to them and make them unwilling participants?
Yeah, so for the young children who participate, they're expecting that they're going to be helping in the kitchen, that they're going to be, doing something with their parent that's a bonding experience, only to have the bait and switch of them being humiliated and feeling shame. That kind of breaks the trust in the immediate future with the parent. That can be, sort of damaging emotionally, feeling humiliated, whether they understand social media or if they just feel humiliated in front of their parent. So, we really want to build trust with our children. Psychology experts who spoke with me basically said you never want to do something that breaks the trust with your child. It may happen inevitably, but when we can avoid those situations, let's do our best to avoid them.
Yeah, and then you post it online for everyone to see. So, Callan, I know you spoke with some parents who say their kids laugh about the videos. What did you hear from parents real quickly who feel that the backlash might be getting out of hand?
Yeah, to the parents who do this, they basically say their kids enjoyed it. It's a 60-second clip of their whole lives. We don't know anything more beyond that 60-second clip. Their children feel like this was a memory that they made. I spoke with one parent who really enjoys playing pranks with their kids, and their kids play pranks on them. So this was just another memory that they made with their family.
All right, Callan Rosenblatt, fascinating story. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, coming up, keeping their eyes on the prize.
Up next, the growing craze of people who are betting on charity and how it's even inspired The Rock to get in on the action. Welcome back. Well, by at least one measure, I'm afraid to tell you, summer is over. If you are a Starbucks person, then you'll see that today marks the start of pumpkin spice season. Starbucks has put its PSL, the pumpkin spice latte, back on menus today, as well as adding some other fall flavors like an iced pumpkin cream chai tea latte and a baked apple croissant. This year actually marks the 20th anniversary of the PSL, a drink that divides people like perhaps no other, but is obviously popular enough that they're now introducing it in August.
Wow, 20 years, though. I did not know that.
I know. It wasn't that big a deal, I don't think, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I think the last decade has really been its peak.
Maybe for the backlash of it is why it took off.
Yeah, there you go.
Fascinating stuff, Joe. Thanks. Well, we end this hour with a simple money-raising idea that's having a big impact and grabbing some attention from Hollywood's biggest celebs. NBC News correspondent Kristen Dahlgren looked at the rise of Bighearted Battles and even joined in on the competition. Take a look.
In most games, there is a winner and a loser. But when it's a big-hearted battle,
it's a win-win for everybody.
Mike Rothman came up with the idea when the pandemic forced his dart league virtual.
Maybe we can spice it up a little bit. Why don't we do it this way? Loser donates to winner's charity of choice.
A simple concept that caught on, from the bar to the board to the court.
Everyone gets to leave today feeling really good about themselves.
Nothing is off limits.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Even rock, paper, scissors with The Rock.
I got it.
Well, if it makes you feel better, I'll still donate 100 as well.
Oh,
so what
man.
charity are we donating to?
Let's go Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Perfect.
When you saw that, what went through your mind?
After I fainted, you mean?
Any amount. Make your bets, post your results, and pay the charity directly.
We don't need money. We don't need credit. We just want this movement to kind of really change the nature of competitive sports and games.
I joined a group of big-hearted battlers with 1 hole to play and $25 on the line.
What are each of your charities?
For me, it's Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's?
Mine is Spike's Fund.
I should just give you the $25 now.
I'm pretty rusty, but that didn't really matter.
Suddenly, the loser is thinking about someone else other than themselves. How refreshing.
A growing movement, making sure kindness and generosity win the day. Kristen Dahlgren, NBC News, Newton, Massachusetts.
I love that. That's like the opposite of the egg prank challenge.
You're so right. The spirit is totally opposite.
Exactly. All right. That does it for this hour of Morning News Now.
But your news continues right now. Good morning. I'm Stephen Romo in for Savannah Sellers.
And I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, former President Trump defiant. He blasted his ongoing legal troubles in an interview with former Fox News host Tucker Carlson. Today, he is expected to surrender to authorities in Georgia over that 2020 election probe.
I got indicted 4 times. It's all. It's horrible when you look and you look at what they're doing.
How the legal process could play out and how it all could affect his run for the White House. Also this morning, coming out swinging. Trump skipped last night's debate, but there were still fireworks in Wisconsin. 8 of the other top Republican contenders for the White House battled it out on the debate stage, trading jabs on President Biden, on Ukraine, and each other. We've got full analysis in just a moment. Plus, a shocking new twist out of Russia. The head of the violent Wagner mercenary group reportedly killed in a plane crash north of Moscow. This just 2 months after he led an aborted mutiny attempt against Russian military leaders. We've got full analysis on what it could mean for the West, for the Kremlin, and for the war in Ukraine. And lunar history is unfolding this morning as India becomes the first nation to land on our moon's south pole. Sort of modern-day space race taking place before us. We'll dig into that a little later. We begin this morning with former President Donald Trump, who's expected to surrender at an Atlanta jail later today.
Yeah, that's where he's expected to be processed for charges of racketeering and conspiracy allegations for his alleged efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election in Georgia. That's also where we find NBC News correspondent Blaine Alexander. Blaine, good morning.
Well, guys, when the former president comes here to the Fulton County Jail to surrender later this evening, he's expected to use this entrance. Now, once inside, he will be fingerprinted, possibly have a mugshot taken before being released on a $200,000 bond.
Facing legal battles on 4 different fronts, this morning, former President Trump is defiantly blasting them all.
I got indicted 4 times. All trivia, nonsense. It's all. It's horrible when you look and you look at what they're doing.
Speaking with former Fox News host Tucker Carlson in a pre-taped interview released on social media, Trump slammed his latest criminal indictment in Georgia and the district attorney who charged him with allegedly trying to overturn the state's 2020 presidential election.
Basically, she's saying Trump doesn't have the right to criticize an election.
Trump and Carlson also discussed the aftermath of the election and January 6th, with Carlson asking this.
So do you think it's possible that there's open conflict? We seem to be moving towards something.
I don't know. There's a level of passion that I've never seen. There's a level of hatred that I've never seen, and that's probably a bad combination.
The interview aired just hours before the one-time reality TV star will hold a primetime surrender, traveling to Atlanta to be booked and processed at the Fulton County Jail later tonight. It comes as lawyers for Trump's co-defendants negotiated their bond.
Sir, can you tell us anything about your conversations in the DA's office today?
I cannot.
At least 9 of the 18 other defendants have already surrendered and been released, including Rudy Giuliani.
I am being indicted because I'm a lawyer.
As he left the jail, Giuliani told reporters he spoke with the former president before turning himself in.
I wish him well. I have every confidence in him. What they are doing to him is an assault on the American Constitution.
Now, we don't know exactly how long the former president will actually be inside the building. Giuliani was inside for less than an hour, for example, another co-defendant for about 90 minutes. And this morning, we're also getting news on the front of a different co-defendant, former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. He had his request for his arrest to be blocked. That request was denied by a judge. He made that request as he's trying to move his case to federal court. Meanwhile, the DA has made it clear that she will issue arrest warrants for anyone who does not surrender by the deadline, which is tomorrow at noon. Back to you.
Wow. All right. Blaine Alexander, thank you.
For more on this case, let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Kristen Gibbons-Fedden. Kristen, good morning to you. So we've seen the former president arrested 3 times already. In this case, though, he's indicted with 18 other defendants, some of whom have already turned themselves in. So what does it mean for the former president's defense to be lumped in with so many other people, unlike the most recent federal indictment where he is the only one charged?
Well, I think that being prosecuted alongside multiple defendants can have its advantages as well as its challenges. You know, on the one hand, the sheer number of defendants could actually lead to a more convoluted trial process, which could potentially lead to delays, which we know Trump really loves, or even a decreased focus on Trump individually. And it could also mean that certain co-defendants could turn into state's witnesses or prosecution witnesses and provide evidence or testimonies that actually support the prosecution's case. On the other hand, if the co-defendants have weaker charges or defenses, it could impact the overall perception of the prosecution's case, and namely the strength of their case, which could really cast doubt on their narrative. So it's got its advantages, but it also has its challenges.
Let's dig into that convoluted trial process that you mentioned. Some of Trump's co-defendants, as we heard, they've already filed various motions. Ken Chesebro asked for a speedy trial. We've got Mark Meadows and Jeffrey Clark asking to move this to federal court. What's the impact all of this has on the case as a whole?
Well, it can impact really the trajectory of the trial in a number of ways. As you mentioned, and Blaine had mentioned as well, Meadows' motion to stay until the removal of the case to federal court, if he is successful, if that was granted, can guarantee you would have seen Trump file the same exact motion yesterday evening, and there could have been a delay in whether or not he turned himself in today. Additionally, if one of the co-defendants, for example, during the trial files a motion to suppress, for example, and it's granted and a motion to suppress, say, hey, you can't utilize certain evidence, and best believe those other defendants would follow suit. But I think it's important to remember that even though there are co-defendants, the key to every motion is whether or not the law would apply to that particular defendant, given the different circumstances. Keep in mind, every co-defendant is alleged to have engaged in its own involvement in criminal misconduct. So just because a motion is granted for one defendant does not necessarily mean it will be granted for another. It has to really depend on the alleged involvement and the actual charges.
Help us understand why a Mark Meadows would want to move this to federal court. And is that something you envision former President Trump trying to do?
You know, Trump was unsuccessful when he tried to move it to federal court in New York. I don't believe he's going to be successful here. A reason that a person would want to remove it from state court, to federal court is solely because they believe that they would have an advantageous judge in federal court. And it really is a means by which they want to kind of forum shop or search for a better court to make those suppression motions, to make any and all of those decisions. I don't think that Trump will make those same moves, mainly because he lost it in New York. However, if his strategy for Georgia is to delay, then probably he will make that move because it could potentially cause the delay that he's searching for.
All right. Kristen Gibbons-Fedden, as always, thank you so much.
Well, as expected, Trump was a no-show at last night's GOP debate in Milwaukee. 8 other presidential hopefuls, though, who were looking to cut into Trump's lead in the polls, squared off for the first time. And they took some jabs at Trump, President Biden, and at each other. NBC's Garrett Haake has the recap of the 2-hour debate from Milwaukee.
The former president and current Republican frontrunner was a major topic of debate last night, despite never setting foot on the stage himself, taping an online interview instead. But there was plenty of heated conversation to go around for the other 8 candidates, all trying to stand out in a crowded field.
Overnight, fireworks on center stage at the first Republican debate.
We need to bring
With frontrunner Donald Trump refusing to attend, citing his lead in the polls, the night revolved around the next two highest polling candidates, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
We will send Joe Biden back to his basement, and we will reverse the decline of this country.
And entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy.
The only war that I will declare as U.S. president will be the war on the federal administrative state.
The polarizing political newcomer trading barbs with nearly every other candidate, who pointed out his lack of experience.
Now is not the time for on-the-job training.
Now that everybody's gotten their memorized, pre-prepared slogans out of the way, we can actually have a real discussion now.
And his combative style.
I'm the only person on the stage who isn't bought and paid for, so I can say this. The climate change agenda is a hoax.
I've had enough already tonight of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here.
Some of the night's most substantive discussion on the issue of abortion and whether candidates would support a federal ban.
I promise you, as President of the United States, the American people will have a champion for life in the Oval Office.
Don't make women feel like they have to decide on this issue when you know we don't have 60 Senate votes.
Despite his glaring absence in the room, Mr. Trump's presence still felt. Asked if they'd support him as the GOP nominee, even if he were convicted. Eventually, 6 candidates, including DeSantis, saying yes, as the crowd reacted. Though some still seized on his legal and political baggage.
The conduct is beneath the office of President of the United States.
Former Vice President Mike Pence using the debate to once again defend his actions on January 6th.
He asked me to put him over the Constitution, and I chose the Constitution.
Would you have approached that question and that point any differently on the stage tonight if Donald Trump had been on it with you?
I don't believe I would, and I think it was a missed opportunity for him not to be there. My bet is he might be at the next one.
Mr. Trump's advisors say the focus on him and on his policies and the chaotic nature of the debate overall vindicated his decision not to attend and point to the millions of viewers of his online interview instead. The question now is what, if anything, could compel the former president to attend the second Republican debate next month.
All right, Garrett, thanks so much.
We are following breaking news out of Orange County, California this morning. 4 people are dead following a mass shooting at a popular biker bar, and half a dozen others were injured. Here's NBC News national correspondent Miguel Almaguer.
Overnight, police responding to a mass shooting at this famous biker bar in Orange County, California.
8 shots were fired, white male, plaid shirt, jeans, still shooting, possibly active shooter at Cook Corner.
Police say the first shots rang out at the Cook Corner Wednesday night, just as the live band started playing during the bar's weekly spaghetti night.
Oh my God.
Chaos erupting as people inside rushed to get out of harm's way. KNBC speaking to a witness who says she was sitting next to the shooter's estranged wife.
And then he turns around and then he starts shooting at me and Marie, his wife. He had 2 guns. And he was just going bang, 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 bang. And I just felt them going by me.
Ryan Gaidis was on the patio with his 7-month-old baby.
You started seeing people screaming and running.
Police arrived on scene minutes after the first 911 calls were made and immediately confronted the suspect.
2 or 3 deputies roll up and without hesitation just started unloading on them.
Police say the gunman was shot and killed by responding officers.
And we have been made aware that the suspect may be retired law enforcement. We are working to confirm that information as we speak.
Our thanks to Miguel Almaguer for that reporting. The witness who says she was next to the alleged shooter's wife told our affiliate that the wife was shot, though her condition is currently unknown.
Turning to international news now, the leader of the mercenary Wagner group is presumed dead after a plane crash. Russian aviation officials say Yevgeny Prigozhin was one of 10 people on board a private jet that crashed about 60 miles north of Moscow yesterday. Prigozhin was behind that aborted mutiny attempt against Russia's top military brass back in June. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel joins us now with the latest on this suspicious situation. Richard.
Suspicious situation is right. And so far, Vladimir Putin and the Kremlin are not commenting publicly, not specifically confirming Prigozhin's death, leaving that to aviation authorities who say that he was on a flight manifest and that no one on board this plane could have survived. There were 7 passengers, 3 crew members on board. Now, many of Vladimir Putin's critics and enemies have met violent ends in the past, and some Russia experts believed that Prigozhin's murder, if that's what this was just a matter of time.
Was this Putin's revenge? Russian aviation officials say a corporate jet fell from the sky Wednesday, and that Putin's one-time aide turned enemy, Yevgeny Prigozhin, was among the 10 passengers killed. Everything about this crash is suspicious. The flight took off from Moscow, reached 28,000 feet, then disappeared from radar, dropping quickly and uncontrollably, suggesting the plane was hit by a missile or there was a bomb on board. Witnesses describe hearing an explosion and seeing the plane break into pieces. I heard a big bang, said Vitale Stepanuk. A wing flew off in one direction, and the fuselage went like that. And then it glided down on one wing. The timing is also suspicious. 2 months to the day after Prigozhin, the leader of the Wagner mercenary group, launched a mutiny against the Kremlin, sending a convoy of his fighters toward Moscow, challenging Putin's grip on power. Prigozhin stopped after reaching a deal with Putin for amnesty that few believed was genuine. A Wagner member this morning said the group will continue to operate under new management. We have other commanders who we obey, and we will operate further. What has happened has happened. We have to stay together, he said. Prigozhin was last seen just days ago, somewhere in Africa, where Wagner has interests in gold and diamond mines. It's unclear why he returned to Moscow and boarded the plane.
A senior advisor to the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, said that only Vladimir Putin had a vested interest in Prigozhin's murder, and that he speculated it was possibly carried out in order to reassure Putin's inner circle that he is still in charge.
All right, more to come on that. Richard, thank you.
So let's get more on this story with NBC News military analyst Colonel Jack Jacobs. Colonel, good to have you with us. Just overall, what is your assessment of this plane crash? What happened here?
Well, this is the latest and maybe the penultimate effort on the part of the Kremlin to eliminate the Wagner Group as a threat to Putin. The Kremlin has been trying to assemble a force out of the Wagner Group, taking people who are part of the Wagner Group and incorporating them into the Russian army to eliminate it as a threat. And it's interesting to note that reportedly aboard the plane was not only Prigozhin, but his chief military commander on the ground, Dmitry Utkin. That completely decapitates the leadership of the Wagner Group and leaves it easier for the Kremlin now to either disband or assimilate the Wagner Group.
So, Colonel, this crash came on the same day that the Russian general who commands the Air Force was dismissed. He was seen as an ally of the Wagner Group. Do you see a link here?
Yeah, no doubt about it, that Putin and his cronies are trying to eliminate any possible threat from inside the Kremlin, from at the top of the food chain. You know, Russian history is replete with palace intrigue followed by palace violence in order to keep the people in power, and this is no different from that either.
Richard Engel just reported the Wagner Group says it will continue to operate under new management. What do you see happening going forward? I mean, we know the Wagner Group has not been very active in Ukraine since that aborted mutiny, but they're very active elsewhere in other parts of the world. So where does this leave them?
Well, what's really important for Russia, and China too, by the way, is to insinuate themselves into what's taking place inside Africa. Not just the turmoil, but also to gain control of the enormous riches, natural wealth that's in the ground in Africa. And the Russians will persist in doing that. It may be the Wagner Group under a different name, but certainly under a different leadership
as the Kremlin makes sure that it controls all of the military and all of the economic activities of Russia, both inside Russia and also abroad. So look for a diminished role of the Wagner Group in any case, whether it's under that name or any other name.
All right, Colonel Jacobs, good to have you on this morning. Thanks for joining us.
You bet.
Time now for a check of your morning News Now weather.
Meteorologist Angie Lassman's tracking the tropics for us. Angie, good morning.
Good morning, guys. There is a whole lot going on across the Atlantic. We've got numerous areas that we are keeping an eye on, and we've got a tropical storm, Franklin, which will show you what's going to happen with that here in a moment. First, let's talk about these couple of spots. We do have this area of interest that has a chance of redeveloping into a tropical storm. I say that because that was Tropical Storm Emily. It's going to continue moving north. We could likely see this become a tropical storm in the short term. We've also got Invest 92L that does have a chance of becoming a tropical depression here as we get, say, into early next week. Similar story out there near the Yucatan Peninsula over the coming days, and especially into next week. We'll have to watch to see if we could see some development into the Gulf of Mexico. We've also got Tropical Storm Franklin, which I mentioned, now lifting north of Hispaniola and moving away just off to the east of Grand Turk Island and sitting with winds about 50 miles per hour right now. Still a tropical storm and going to continue its northerly movement here for a little while before it starts to take a turn. What's going to happen is it kind of runs into a roadblock of a high pressure and it pushes it back off to the west. It'll still move to the north, though. And notice, here's Bermuda. We could be talking about a Category 2 hurricane impacting folks there. We'll see just how close exactly it gets to the island. But either way, we could see some impacts for folks there. Not going to impact the United States, except for we'll see probably some elevated risks of rip currents, maybe some dangerous beach conditions along the East Coast. So that'll be something that you'll have to watch for as we get into the early parts of next week. Otherwise, we'll continue to monitor the Atlantic. Of course, we're just getting into the swing of really the peak of that season, so much to watch there. We've also got the heat alerts up. 98 million people from the Midwest down to the Gulf Coast. This is going to be another steamy day across this region with temperatures ranging from the high 90s in Chicago to 101 in Memphis, 97 for New Orleans. But really, no matter where you look on this map, you're talking about feels like temperatures well into the triple digits. So same advice goes for today as it has been for really the extended period. Take it slow outside when you're doing that strenuous activity. Make sure you're staying hydrated. And that goes for tomorrow, too. We're going to see some minor improvements for the extreme northern tier of this region, maybe the northern third of the region. But you notice still St. Louis, Wichita, you're well into the triple digits again tomorrow. That goes for all points south as well. The feels like temperatures will be well into the triple digits, too. So you're going to have to take it slow. But here comes some relief in the form of a cold front that works through just in time for parts of the Great Lakes and the Midwest to enjoy a nice weekend. We've got 77 degrees for Saturday and Sunday in Chicago, Detroit. Similar story there. Low 80s for Indianapolis, and we'll still be into the 90s in St. Louis by Saturday. But look at the jump in temperatures as we get down to Sunday. Low 80s for folks there. With that system that's going to give us a little relief from the heat, we've got to deal with some showers and thunderstorms across parts of the Great Lakes today, mainly Michigan, the Ohio Valley. You could see some gusty winds with that, maybe a couple of tornadoes, but otherwise I think it'll be just the winds that will be the main threat. By tomorrow, that system starts to work a little closer to the East Coast, and that means mid-Atlantic, Northeast, New England could get some good soaking rain. Places like Boston could have, upwards of an inch of rain. So we'll see some nice soaking rain for our lawns, but it could interrupt travel, guys. I know it's Friday. A lot of people are going to be heading out and about. So just something to take note of if you got some travel plans.
Summer weekends are not many left.
They're dwindling.
They're fading. All right. Thanks, Angie. Appreciate it. Coming up on Morning News Now, it is one giant leap for India as it becomes the first nation to land on the south pole of the moon. We've got more on that mission later in the hour.
But first, a new controversy this morning over Japan's decision to dump radioactive water from the Fukushima nuclear plant into the ocean. Now, China is hitting back. We'll take you there next.
We're back now with the latest on the ongoing migrant crisis here in New York. The city and state continue to spar, and both sides faced off in court yesterday. NBC News Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley joins us with the latest. Julia, good morning. So we know tens of thousands of asylum seekers have come through New York City since the spring of last year. Explain to us what both the city and the state are fighting over. What are the big concerns here?
Well, the key words here is the right to shelter. That's something New York City has provided uniquely in this situation where anyone who comes through that city has the right to shelter. Now, up until this point, they've been able to provide that shelter. But as you know, recently, they've been running out of space. You've seen migrants sleeping outside on the streets outside of the Roosevelt Hotel. And now there's a fight between the state and the city, both run by Democrats, but the state saying that they shouldn't have to absorb any more of the immigrants that come out of New York City, that right to shelter is specific to the city. But the mayor, Eric Adams, saying that they are in a desperate situation. They need more help from the federal government and they need more help from the state. He wants to be able to push some of those migrants outside of the city further into the state. So they went to court yesterday to see where those lines could be drawn. The city trying to get the state to take on more, the state resisting that and saying that this is the state's the city's policy, rather, and that they are the ones who need to make sure that they do find places for these people to live because the state simply can't absorb it. But bottom line, you're talking about a very large population here.
Yeah. So, I mean, Mayor Adams says there are more than 59,000 asylum seekers at more than 200 sites around the 5 boroughs here in New York. What's been his reaction to the federal response?
Well, he's been pretty critical of it. He says that they need to be able to fast track migrants for asylum seekers for work permits. I will say, though, on that, it's really a law that you cannot apply for a work permit unless you've been seeking asylum for 6 months. So that means 180 days after people cross the border. And that puts the USCIS, the federal system, the federal agency that approves those work permits, in a bind because they can't even review work permits until that point. It doesn't matter how quickly they might fast track that. That's something they would need Congress to approve. The federal government's also sent more money. They just sent $770 million to New York and other cities that are taking in migrants, but they can't do more to be able to get these people faster through the asylum system because, first of all, they're not getting more money from Congress right now, although they did just ask for more money in a supplemental, and they simply can't get around these laws that hamper how quickly they could go. Another thing I'll point out is that 180-day rule applies for people who did turn themselves in at the border and claim asylum. If someone entered illegally, got past the system, it's a lot harder for them to figure out what rights they have access to right now, and it's really putting the city in a bind. But yes, Eric Adams saying federal government, the Biden administration absolutely needs to do more.
So this legal fight we're talking about, where does it go from here? What do we expect to see next?
Well, the next question will be whether or not this ultimately falls to the city to continue to implement or whether or not the state has any role in this. Right to shelter has been a New York City ordinance, not a state one. So it'll be interesting to see how this judge rules ultimately in a Democrat versus Democrat debate here. But I don't think this problem is going away. In fact, it'll heat up when people start going back to school. We know that these children in New York City, immigrant children, have the right to go to school. And as you know, those spots in New York City public schools can often be competitive. So this will definitely come to a head. In fact, we just saw a protest on Long Island this morning about this very issue. It's certainly heating up in New York City and around the area.
And we know you'll keep track of it. Julia, thank you so much.
Well, this morning, in a controversial move, Japan has started to release treated radioactive water from the Fukushima nuclear plant into the ocean. And now the move is getting increased pushback from other countries. This plan, which has been met by protests in different parts of Asia, was approved last month by the government as well as the International Atomic Energy Agency, which is the UN's nuclear watchdog. NBC News foreign correspondent Janice Mackey-Frayer has more from Japan.
It all started just after 1 o'clock local time today. Officials at the nuclear power plant confirming they've started to release treated radioactive wastewater from the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant into the ocean. They're pumping it through a tunnel that extends about a half-mile out from the coast, 40 feet underwater. They diluted this treated wastewater before the process began. This is the nuclear plant that was ruined in the 2011 earthquake and tsunami here. It triggered a triple meltdown. Much of the water that was treated over the years and is now being released was used to cool the melted fuel. Until now, it's been held in these massive storage tanks, but the tanks are nearly full, so that's the issue. The International Atomic Energy Agency has been good with the plan. They say they'll continue to monitor for levels of tritium. That seems to be the concern. They're using this very powerful filtration system to treat the water. It's removing most radioactive material, but not tritium. And that is what's sparking criticism and opposition across the region, especially from China. Chinese officials today again warning they will take all necessary measures against Japan, announcing today they're going to halt the import of all aquatic products from Japan. And this was a concern in the fisheries industry here in Fukushima. The government here still stands by the plan. They say that there's little else that they can do. Officials at the plant will continue to monitor the levels as this process continues. It'll happen a few times over the course of every year, probably for the next 30 to 40 years.
All right, Janice, thanks so much.
More international headlines now. Greece is investigating whether arson groups are to blame for those ongoing wildfires.
NBC News foreign correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us now with details on that and other world news. Good morning, Raf.
Hey, Stephen. Hey, Joe. Yeah, that arson investigation comes as hundreds of fires continue to blaze across Greece. Right now, at least 20 people are dead, and the largest fire near the border with Turkey has been burning for at least 5 days. Those heavy flames are overtaking forests and homes. Other European countries have sent over resources to help as those fires continue. In Vietnam, growing concern over the country's iconic kissing rocks. Located in the Ha Long Bay, the rocks sitting on the water appear to kiss. They attract millions of tourists every year, but now experts are saying that rising sea levels could leave them at risk of toppling if preservation steps aren't taken. And finally, celebrations around the world for Ukraine's Independence Day, marking 32 years since it gained freedom from the Soviet Union. Over in the UK, children from the Ukrainian community are planting a Golder Rose, Ukraine's national shrub, in the town of Lincoln. More than 1,300 Ukrainians have made that county their home since the Russian invasion. And guys, there will also be a moment of silence later for those killed in the war. Guys.
Raph, thank you so much.
Well, coming up, there are some stunning allegations this morning coming from the former NFL star who was at the center of the Blindside story.
It's all over the amount of money his adoptive parents allegedly made and what he's claiming they did with it. We're going to have the latest on that one next. We're back now with the latest on that drama surrounding the people who inspired the film The Blind Side.
Yeah, former NFL star Michael Oher has filed a new legal motion against who he long considered his adoptive parents, and he's accusing them of making money off him without his consent and withholding those profits. NBC News correspondent Emily Ikeda joins us now with these latest developments. Good morning, Emily.
Yeah, good morning to both of you. The big screen drama has now become a courtroom drama. Michael Oher is accusing Leanne Toohey and her husband Sean of keeping nearly 2 decades of financial information from him. Now he's asking a court to compel the Tooheys to provide answers.
This morning, Michael Oher, whose story inspired the movie The Blind Side, accusing Sean and Leanne Toohey of enriching themselves at his expense.
Are you going to protect the family, Michael?
Yes, ma'am.
In a new legal motion, Oher claims he has no knowledge of the income generated from the Tooheys' use of his name, likeness, and image over the years, and that the Tooheys have falsely claimed he is their adopted son as part of their marketing and business ventures.
We want to know if you would like to become part of this family.
Kind of thought I already was.
The document is the latest filing in the legal battle between Oher and the Tooheys. Oher, who played 8 seasons in the NFL, claims he only learned 6 months ago that the Tooheys had become his conservators back in 2004, rather than adopting him as he had thought. An unusual step, according to attorneys familiar with the process.
A conservatorship is based on the notion that the person for whom a conservator is being sought has some sort of disability.
In an interview last week with the Daily Memphian, Sean Toohey said the conservatorship was a way for then 18-year-old Oher to live with them and play for Ole Miss without violating NCAA rules, saying lawyers told them they couldn't adopt over the age of 18. The only thing we could do was to have a conservatorship. But in Tennessee, adult adoption is legal and was at that time.
Go!
The Blind Side film earned more than $300 million at box offices worldwide. A source close to the film tells NBC News the Tuohys received approximately $700,000 to be evenly split among the family. But in court filings, Orr says he's been kept in the dark about his portion of those proceeds. Orr is asking for a full accounting and for the conservatorship, which he acknowledged in a 2011 memoir, to now be terminated. The Tuohys have not commented on the recent motion, but in a previous statement, their lawyer said in part they will never oppose terminating the conservatorship. And the Tuohys have given Mr. Orr an equal cut of every penny received from The Blind Side. As for Orr, he's been seen in recent days on tour for his latest book, meeting fans in Florida Wednesday night, though not addressing the lawsuit.
Wow, shocking. So many people feel like they know this family due to the movie The Blind Side. So what's going to be next for this case?
Okay, so as we reported, Orr wants to have access to the financial documents from the Tuohys over the past 2 decades, but only a court can actually demand that from the Tuohy family. So there will need to be a hearing, and legal experts point out that it being in the most populated county in Tennessee, that's something that could play out over several months before that even comes to fruition. Orr didn't respond to our request for comment, but has previously said he will let the lawsuit speak for itself.
All right, Emily Keda, thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Coming up, some breaking economic data out just moments ago.
Yeah, the latest read on unemployment in America, that's up next. You're watching Morning News Now. Back to school season is in full swing, and for many kids, that means not only a return to homework and hitting the books, but also coughs, sniffles, and those sick days.
Yeah, and now 3.5 years since COVID first disrupted classes around the globe, there are new concerns that it could impact yet another school year. NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar is here to talk about it. It's not just COVID, it's the triple-demic and all the stuff that's going on. In fact, we're already seeing it happen. One Kentucky school district had to cancel classes just days into the school year because they had COVID, the flu, strep. How concerned should we be about it? I mean, it's not shocking, but how concerned should we be about this fall?
I know. You know what? I mean, moderately. And I think, honestly, not even so much because of the risk of infection, but we just don't want schools to close again. But the problem is that, you know, if teachers are out, if staff is out and kids are out, it's hard to keep a school up and running. What I'm very curious about is if and when the CDC will ever change its recommendations in terms of isolation and all of that stuff and quarantine for COVID, because that really is what takes people out for such a long period of time. But, you know, heading into the school year, especially with COVID on parents' mind, 56% of kids between the ages of 6 months and 17 years have not received one COVID shot. That's a lot. That's 40.5 million children heading into the school year without having been vaccinated for COVID. You know, so again, a reminder to parents out there, talk to your pediatrician about the vaccine for your kids.
And since COVID, we've been so aware of mutations of viruses and variants. What should we know about that and how boosters play into that?
Yeah, so we have a new booster that's going to be available in about a month. It is made of the strain that was predominant in June. It's called the XBB strain. It is no longer the dominant strain, but a relative of it is that one that we've dubbed Eris, right? I mean, remember, viruses mutate for a living. That's what they do. But because it's so closely related to XBB, we do think that the vaccine is going to be a very good match. You know, a lot of people ask the question, I'm getting this question on Twitter too, I haven't had a booster, should I get the old one now or should I wait for the new one? For most people, waiting for the new one makes sense, especially as we head into the fall and winter, where you want to be protected with the strains that are most likely to be there. I should add, there are other strains out there that have also funny names that are having public health experts on alert because they have a lot of mutations that could render our protection not as good. But for now, this is where we are, and we would be recommending this updated booster for those inclined to get it.
So what's your biggest advice for parents who are a little worried and they just want to make sure they keep their kids as healthy as possible?
Yeah, so a couple of things. We know that a lot of kids fell behind in their well visits, right, during the pandemic. So please make sure to make those appointments with your pediatrician. Stay up to date on all the other vaccines that you might have missed. Get your flu shot. Guess what? No nose picking kids. There was a recent study, or adults, that showed that people are more likely to contract COVID with nose picking because it enters, that's how it enters. Yeah. Hand washing, and the RSV monoclonal for little babies that was just recently approved will keep your little ones safe, especially from RSV.
All right, Dr. Azar, as always, appreciate it.
You bet.
All right, turning to some financial headlines now and some new economic data coming in with the latest read on unemployment.
CNBC's Savannah Henao is that and other financial headlines. Savannah, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Stephen. Yep, we're just getting a fresh snapshot on the state of the U.S. economy. Let's start with jobless claims coming in at 230,000 versus the 240,000 expected, showing a still resilient jobs market. Meanwhile, durable goods coming in worse than expected, down 5.2% versus 4.1%. Demand for big-ticket items such as appliances, computers, and transportation equipment falling more than expected in July. Meanwhile, Wall Street, and especially the tech sector, could get a big boost today from NVIDIA. The chip maker reporting blockbuster earnings last night, sales surging to a record on the strength of demand for its AI chips. NVIDIA provides the muscle behind many popular AI tools, including ChatGPT, and it's invested in AI for a decade and has no rivals who can match it yet. NVIDIA stock adding nearly $90 billion in market value in extended trading. TikTok is planning to ban links to outside e-commerce sites such as Amazon as it ramps up its shopping platform. The information reports the move could be a way for TikTok to force people to use TikTok Shop if they want to buy an item they see on the app. TikTok Shop is on track to lose more than $500 million this year as the company is spending heavily on hiring and building a delivery network, guys.
All right, more happening on TikTok. Savannah, thanks so much.
You got it.
Turning now to a special surprise for an Arkansas high school. Back in March, a tornado ripped through a small town, destroying the area's school. Teachers had to get a little creative to even hold classes, but now they're getting a fresh start and a visit from a familiar face here at NBC, Al Roker, who arrived with a few tricks up his sleeve.
The school's always been the heart of our community.
This is home.
They've become family here.
We all work together. We all want the best for the kids.
When you think about what kind of teachers you want teaching your kids, you're probably thinking of special folks like these four. Jerry Harvey, Jasmine McGough, Ashley Harris, and Holly Campbell. All teachers at Wynn High School who were put to the test 5 months ago when a deadly tornado tore through their beloved town, the high school taking a direct hit.
You know, we're used to it. There's bad weather coming, but you just think it's going to pass over, and it just didn't pass over that day.
Teachers and students sent home early, a decision that saved lives.
When you guys first came back here and saw this, Jerry, what were your thoughts?
Just hard to imagine that that could happen in such a short amount of time in a building that we had just left hours ago.
Wasting no time, Jerry took action, organizing a cleanup of the school.
It was incredible to look across that field and see kids just really working for their school.
I see you're still emotional.
I am, yeah.
While some materials were able to be saved, there were irreplaceable items that left a hole in their hearts. Holly losing a box of personal notes from her students.
So it had like all the candygrams, the notes, the little Christmas cards.
Over how long?
I've been teaching, this is 29 years.
Wow.
Throughout the cleanup, the teachers took care of each other as well. Ashley losing her home in the storm, but showing up ready to serve.
You were still out there helping others while you didn't have a roof over your head.
That's what you're supposed to do. I was okay. I had other people taking care of the things that I needed personally, and that gives me a sense of ease, and I knew that everything's going to be okay.
That seems to be the mantra.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be okay.
Yes.
If you believe it, it's going to happen.
Yes.
And these teachers made sure it was going to be okay. Jasmine, in charge of the prom, losing all of her supplies in the storm. But in just about 2 weeks, right on schedule, she put together a night none of these students would ever forget.
My phone was blowing up from all these kids. When were we doing prom or not? And I was like, yes, we're having prom. I hadn't even really talked to anybody. I just said we were having prom.
And so now we thought it was time to give all the teachers at Wynn High School a day they wouldn't forget. In only 5 months, the town of Wynn creating a brand new campus for the high school, bringing teachers and students back together in one place. The school's just about ready and working with the folks at Subaru. We wanted to give the students and teachers a sneak peek. They thought they were here for a pep rally.
Hello, Yellow Jackets! You guys don't just survive, but you... Yeah! How's it feel being on your new campus? It's not just a pep rally, but it's a celebration of all of you. We told the folks at Subaru about your new classroom, so bring in the surprise. They are giving $500 each through adoptaclassroom.org with all the supplies you guys need, all your school supplies.
These are things that they've lost that we didn't have, and so being able to replace them, this is wonderful.
Mrs. Campbell, you told me that you had a box that you collected all these memories from all of your students over almost 30 years. Well, guess what? We've got a new box for you with notes from all your students. Thanking you for everything you've done. How's that feel? I think we're going to have a little more fun. For you students, we've got Sherwood, Arkansas's The Ice Cream Truck. You're all getting ice cream.
While students lined up for the ice cream truck, I took all the teachers outside for their new classrooms and one final surprise.
Subaru heard that one of the things you guys needed, and it's funny how you take things for granted, but something as simple as whiteboards is something you really needed. You get a whiteboard, and you get a whiteboard, and you get a whiteboard. Let's take a look inside.
Oh, yes.
Come on, guys.
This is going to be perfect. The
It
kids
is.
will love
It'll
it.
be great.
We're just so happy that you guys get to start your year off together.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to go get my jackets. I'm so excited about mine.
Al Roker, thanks so much, and thanks to all those amazing teachers. Wynn High School will start classes on that new campus right after Labor Day.
Very cool. Well, coming up, history has once again been made on the moon.
After the break, more on India's groundbreaking mission to the lunar South Pole. That's next.
Welcome back. Any gleeks out there may geek out on this. The SAG-AFTRA picket line reunited the Glee class yesterday. Stars like Darren Criss, Kevin McHale, and Jenna Uskowitz took adorable group photos together at this protest. Heather Morris, famously known as the cheerleader Brittany in the show, made a heartfelt Instagram post about this meetup. Her picket sign even paying a tribute to her late Glee co-star Naya Rivera, featuring an iconic quote from Rivera's character saying, "The only straight I am is straight up broke." A memorable quote at that.
Good to see them all back together.
It really is. All right, now to history in the making for India. Yesterday, the most populous country in the world became the first to land a spacecraft near the south pole of the moon.
Here's why that's a big deal. Scientists believe the area could hold vital reserves of frozen water. For more on this, we are joined by Jana Levin. She is a cosmologist and Claire Toh Professor of Physics and Astronomy at Barnard College of Columbia University. Jana, thanks for joining us. So, as we mentioned, this is the first landing near the moon's south pole. Explain why that's important and what it is scientists hope to find there.
You know, this is only the fourth country to successfully land on the moon and the first to land near the South Pole. The South Pole is important because we believe there are very deep craters there. It's extremely cold, and that there's frozen water, ice, deep in those craters. And that's incredibly exciting. We really didn't know that there was ice there even 20 years ago. And so the intention is not only to find out if there's water there possibly for astronauts to survive on the moon, but also resources to make fuel, because water is made of hydrogen and oxygen, and both of those are materials used in fuel.
This is a major achievement, and I'm loving the renewed space race here. But why has it taken so long for a mission to the South Pole of the moon?
Well, it's treacherous going to the moon at all. And we've seen a lot of crashes on the moon. Israel crashed a spacecraft on the moon. We just saw what happened with the Russian mission, crashed just a couple of days ago. It's hard. It's very technologically difficult. And the way India did this is they went very slow. They took a month to get there. They orbited the Earth for a while before coming close to the moon. And then they very cautiously and in a very controlled way lowered and hovered and landed. And so what they're also doing is proving this technology that you can do a soft, nice, gentle landing on the moon. They literally hovered above the moon for maybe 30 seconds before making the descent. And I should also emphasize that it's not just a technological achievement, but the importance of being able to get fuels, because the ambition globally is for travel, interplanetary travel, to use the moon as a way station on your way to Mars.
Let's talk about what this means for India. It's only the fourth nation to successfully land on the lunar surface after the U.S., the former Soviet Union, and then China. So what does this mean for India and the future of its space program?
Well, India has always had an incredibly interesting space program because they operate on a tiny budget. The expense of this mission was less, I read recently, than the cost of the film Gravity. So they do things with very little resources, but they do them well. And I think it's going to be interesting watching their partnership with Japan, which is emerging, their continued partnership with NASA, their attempts to put actual astronauts in space for the first time. So I think India will be part of the larger program that other countries are initiating to have colonization on the moon and to send other astronauts to the moon, like the U.S.'s Artemis mission.
All right, Jan 11, thank you so much for joining us this morning for this exciting news and so much more space news, especially with the moon to come in the coming years.
Yep.
Thank you for having me.
That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
But your news continues right now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.